Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to address you today about the current saga of elections in Uganda. As you know, elections, both presidential and MPs, members of parliament, are due to be held in February of next year. However, right from the start, this is an unfair election. Right from the start, this is a biased election. Right from the start, in many ways, this is a fraudulent election. As you know, the majority of Ugandans have been calling for electoral reforms for a long time. And dictator Yoweri Museveni stubbornly refused to push through the electoral reforms demanded by the people. However, he had the audacity to put through minor electoral reforms engineered by himself and for his own benefit.
It doesn't matter because I'm not working for, I'm working for myself. I'm not working for other people. I'm working for my grandchildren, for my children.
That is pitfall number one. Number two, in the selection of candidates, it has not been a level field. Some candidates, like myself, were refused to be nominated. In effect, were refused to stand for the post of presidency in Uganda. This means that dictator Yoweri Museveni can pick and choose who is going to challenge him. If he's scared of Dr. Kiyingi, then he would decline by whatever means and stop him from standing for the post of presidency in Uganda. This is grossly unfair and casts doubt on the validity of such an election. I'll come back to this later. And at the end of the day, Ugandans have got to decide, do you continue having fraudulent elections? Or do you stand up once for all and change this corrupt and biased system which is discriminative and which is oppressive? By now, in a normal country, the electoral roll or register, as it's called in Uganda, should have been publicized and people should know who is on the electoral roll and who is not. However, the Electoral Commission up to now has not yet displayed the list of voters. This is very embarrassing. But then, dictator Museveni's government does not have any shame in the actions that they do, however blatant they are. The main reason that the voters register has not been displayed is that the government is still playing around with the names of the register. Not only do they take off names that support Chiinji, but they also mess up names of those people they think are not going to vote for dictator Yoweri Museveni. And we now have credible evidence how this is being done. There is a building near the former Bat Valley area, a whole floor. I'm sure by the time this goes viral, they would have removed those people, but they were there. And they had multiple computers, and they were given passwords into the Electoral Commission's computers. And they would sit on these computers and tamper with the names. So for example, if you're James Brown, they would put James John Brown. Therefore, if you bring the ID card, it will have James Brown, and then they'll say, no, this picture belongs to James John Brown. Therefore, you're not eligible to vote. Alternatively, they actually change the picture from the name, or the name from the picture, or the constituency name. So you might be registered in Kampala, and in the register it says Mubende or Mbale, in which case you'll be disqualified on the voters' booth. This has been happening. Apart from that, as you know, Museveni imported non-Ugandans into the system. Our estimate is up to 2 million people, between 2 and 3 million people, were given ID cards, illegally given ID cards, which are supposed to be for Ugandans, to these illegal aliens whose purpose is to disrupt the election process and to vote for dictator Yoweri Museveni, so that even before you start, he has got 3 million votes on his side because these people are given ID cards illegally. Again, there is evidence for this. Not only that, at the last minute, as you know, he has created a number of sub-districts. This is a way of buying votes and engineering biased members of parliament elections in these new districts as a trade-off to the people that have been given a new district. It is not for development. It does not help Uganda. It's not economical. It's done for the sole purpose of benefiting the incumbent, who is dictator Yoweri Museveni. Now, I could go on. As you know, dictator Yoweri Museveni has been dishing out money over the last 2 years in broad daylight. Cash money. This time not even trying to hide it, but cash money. Wherever he went, he would take sacks of money and give it to the voters. And the same man now has the audacity to stand up and say, oh, you cannot bribe voters. Oh, I cannot bribe voters. Look, this man says one thing and he does the exact opposite. So already we have listed a few areas where these elections is not going to be credible. And for many of us, we are not going to recognize the results of this election unless a miracle happens that the actual process can be cleaned up in the next 2 to 3 months before the voters cast their vote. Just in case this happens, Museveni has brought in safeguards again to make sure that people are either forced, or those who can't be forced are wiped out so that he stays in power. Over the last 8 months, he has been training vigilantes in the names of crime preventers. These are people purposely trained to disrupt the elections. These are people purposely trained to beat up opponents. These are people purposely trained to cause havoc and to kill, just in case Mr. Museveni is defeated. In ordinary language, this is preparation for genocide. I did speak about this before, and I'll say it again. This is a serious matter. Dictator Yoweri Museveni is openly preparing and planning for another genocide in Uganda. Election or not, I'd like to call upon our neighbors, the neighboring countries. I'd like to call upon the international community to take note so that this time genocide can be prevented, because the warning has been given. We do not want to go back to 1986, where more than 2 million people were massacred by Museveni in the name of a liberation war, and the world did nothing. We don't want to go back to the days of Rwanda, when there was a genocide and nothing was done, but a lot was said after the event. I am warning everybody. I'm warning Ugandans. I'm warning East Africans. I'm warning Africans. I'm warning the international community that dictator Yoweri Museveni is preparing for genocide. And the steps must be taken now to prevent this. For those of you who had not taken this seriously, Dictator Yoweri Museveni himself last week confirmed this. He's a very arrogant man. And he said, you got to be prepared. If you vote the wrong way, it's a matter of life and death. The unveiled threat inherent is obvious. You do not vote for me, you die. Now, he said it is on record, and this was only last week. We cannot have more proof that this man is preparing for genocide.
It's a matter of life or death. If you if you elect badly, you can get into a very bad situation.
One of the things that disturbs the majority of people in the world is the question of child soldiers. In 1986, Mr. Museveni used child soldiers and he got away with it. When he went to loot into the Congo, he used child soldiers and he got away with it. This time, as the voice of the people at the moment, as one of the very few people who can stand up openly and freely and talk about dictator Yoweri Museveni, I want to put this to your attention. That dictator Yoweri Museveni is again at his game of recruiting child soldiers. And we have proof of this, where the UPDF officers are training school children. They are training school children on how to handle and how to fire an AK-47. Now, this is not a joke. This is very, very serious. I'm not blaming my brothers and sisters in Uganda for not speaking out, because I know you can't. I know many of you would have liked to say what I'm saying now, but you can't. And therefore, I am standing up to say this on behalf of all peace-loving Ugandans. We must prevent Museveni causing another saga with child soldiers. And we must prevent Museveni before he starts his terrible journey to start another genocide in Uganda. To compound it all, Dictator Yoweri's police continues to be ruthless. And the message is very clear. You stand against me, you vote against me, you are done. As you know, about 3 weeks ago, An honorable lady, a member of the FDC party, was undressed by the police. Now, in most of the African cultures, and I'm not very sure what culture dictator Yoweri Museveni follows, if any, undressing a senior is an abomination. In fact, you are cursed if you undress a senior, particularly if it is a lady. And some countries, one of the open curses is for an older woman to undress before you. That is the ultimate objection and curse. But Museveni's soldiers undressed an honorable lady because she belonged to the FDC party, because she did not support NRM, because she dared to go to a meeting organized by an opposition party. This is not only deplorable, but shameful. And the message is clear. Do that, come against me, and you're going to face the same. Of course, we know the tactics of beating up demonstrators. We know the tactics of using the Kiboko squad. And for those who do not know English, Kiboko is a piece of stick, a heavy stick, which is used to beat up people, and very savagely too. You see, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Museveni has not stopped on opposition members only, but even his own party, who dare to dissent, who dare to do the right thing. And here I'd like to quote you again, only one. Minister Nantaba, who is the state minister for lands, dared oppose some of the henchmen of dictator Museveni when they were trying to displace ordinary civilians from their pieces of land. And of course, now she is an outcast. Not only was she pushed out from being nominated within the NRM, but recently she has been tear-gassed to the extent she's now fighting for her life in a hospital in Nairobi, in Kenya. Now, this is a state minister for dictator Yoweri Museveni. But because she stood in the way of some of the bigger shots within the government who are trying to take land from the ordinary people, and she dared oppose this, she is now treated like a dog. And she is now languishing in a hospital because she was tear-gassed, purposely tear-gassed, into the eyes, and she's fighting for her dear life. This is the type of man that we're talking about. And this is the type of man who now proposed to be holding an election in Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to pose a few questions for you. Are we going to accept the results of these elections as credible? And if not, what are you going to do? Are we going to allow this man to continue the total destruction of Uganda? Are we going to continue to let this man torture at will and use the ruthless police under his henchman Kaihura endlessly? Are we going to allow this man to bribe voters at will? Are we going to allow this man to continue the destruction of the educational system, to continue the destruction of the legal system, to continue the destruction of the infrastructure? We still have a chance to make things right. We still have a chance to redeem what is left of Uganda. But we don't have much time. time is running out. And if you're one of those Ugandans, if you're one of those well-wishers that genuinely care for the country, and you'd like a credible change in Uganda, then this is the time to join me. Dictator Museveni must go. And the time for that is now. God bless you all.